Hey guys, it's Luna from 13 Lunar Magic, and today you are in my laboratory where I am going to show you how to make Dragon's Blood ink. Okay, we gotta talk about some precautions here. Precautions, okay? Or cautions, or warnings. Hey, we'll go with that too. If you're nursing and pregnant, please steer clear from this because this is definitely not something for you. It can be very, very dangerous for you as well as the child. Also, if you suffer from asthma, upper respiratory issues, or have an infection, stay clear from this as well, or take very serious precautions because this can irritate your lung, what we're going to do. Lastly, if you have kids and pets around, please have them not anywhere near here, and also keep in mind that you should be doing this in a well-ventilated area and away from any kind of heat source. So basically, don't be burning candles while you're doing this because this is quite dangerous what we're going to be doing. Alright, so with that being said, let's get started. So you've probably seen like a dozen recipes on how to make Dragon's Blood ink. And you attempt it, and it just doesn't come out the way that you thought it was supposed to. Like maybe it doesn't come out red, or it becomes this glop of a gloop and it's just not writing the way you were expecting it to. Well, today I'm here to clarify what is it that you're supposed to be using and how to actually make it. So let's talk about the first thing that you need to think about, and that is the Dragon's Blood resin. Hey, that's simple enough, right? Well, not really, because the resin that's available in the market today is actually the wrong Dragon's Blood resin to use to make ink. The one that everybody is familiar with is the one with the little star in the middle of the resin, and it's spelled like this scientifically. Okay, it has Draco at the end of it. This particular resin looks very much like this. Very, very nice, very dusty. And this is your typical run-of-the-mill market. Looks like a little turd. It's all good. Or a fossilized turd anyway. And this is the one that normally everybody gets. It's readily available, it's non-toxic, and well, it's Dragon's Blood. Except this does not make ink. So you're probably saying, what kind of Dragon's Blood am I supposed to be using then? Well, the Dragon's Blood that you're supposed to be using is this one right here. Also known as Medieval's Dragon's Blood. And this particular Dragon's Blood looks just like this. And the next ingredient we need is pure alcohol. Okay, before y'all run off to your liquor store and think that you're gonna get pure alcohol off the liquor cabinet, no, you're not. Not unless it's moonshine, but legally, no, here in the US, they do not sell pure alcohol for drinking. I can only imagine how you can end up after drinking that, but it's not possible to get here in the US, legally. Let me state that correctly, legally. So that leaves us with one other option, and that is isopropyl, which is an actual rubbing alcohol you can get at the pharmacy. However, we need pure isopropyl. So your 90 to 91% pharmacy grade is not going to cut it because the rest of it is filled with water. Hence why it's 91% or 90%. Okay? So where do we get 99.99% isopropyl? Well, luckily for you, I have an Amazon affiliate link down in the description below where you can get that. It's only going to cost you about 11 bucks, and it's a huge jar. And I mean huge jar. Now, keep in mind, this is not to be used on wounds, okay? This is not like the pharmacy alcohol. This is actually used to clean electronics. So please do not use this to, disinfect the wound because they're going to hate you for the rest of your life if you try using this stuff. Also, you're going to need gloves, y'all, to handle this. And the gloves that you're going to want to get are the ones that I'm wearing. These are nitrile gloves. These are hospital grade gloves. And again, the Amazon affiliate link is down below to get yourself 100 gloves that will last you forever. Also, this stuff produces fumes, and the fumes are highly, highly flammable. So please do not use this near a heat source. And also keep in mind, if you have breathing problems, to probably not use this, okay? This should be done in a well-ventilated area because this stuff is going to suffocate you as you're going to use it. FYI, giving you the warning now, y'all. this stuff's strong. And that's all we need. That's it. Those are the only ingredients we need to make Dragon's Blood ink. Wait, hold up. You mean to tell me the whole list of things? What about Gargum? Gargum has always been thrown in there. Yes, I know everybody tells you to throw Gargum in there. And that partially has to do with the Dragon's Blood that they're using is the wrong type. Draco is not ethanol soluble. And neither is Gargum. So believe it or not, the reason the Dragon's Blood that you're normally using to make the ink doesn't stick or get very thick is because it doesn't dissolve in alcohol, it only dissolves in water. And Gargum does the same thing. It does not dissolve in ethanol, it only dissolves in water. Therefore, you're just wasting your time. It's not going to thicken it up. It's only going to clump up into these weird goop things, okay? And never actually become an ink because you're using the wrong liquid to make it. Moral of the story? No, we don't need the Gargum because the resin that we're going to use, the Medieval Dragon's Blood, is a very sticky resin. I promise y'all, you're going to see what I'm talking about. Okay. Let's get started because we're going to really dive into this, and I know this video is already getting so long, but I felt that it was necessary for y'all to know this. Well, I hope you guys like the new setup. We're going to be doing it this way now instead of diagonally so that you can see what's going on. And so to get started, we're going to need a few things. We're going to need some kind of scale. We're going to need a mortar and pestle. Try not to use your stone mortar and pestles because they're just not going to work out very well. They're going to end up getting dyed. This stuff stains everything. I kid you not, it stains everything. You're going to want a stir. You're going to want your alcohol. You're definitely going to want some paper towels. Okay, I'm going to use a beaker to put everything in. Maybe a measuring spoon. And you're going to want a container to put everything in. So the first thing we're going to want to do is we're going to want to crush our resin. Looking nice and red, huh? Just to kind of give you an idea what it looks like. Ooh, that's some red resin right there. Look at that. We got our resin crushed up. It does not need to be into a powder form, so don't worry about crushing this into a powder. The next thing we're going to want to do is we're going to want to measure out 10 grams of this resin. So, grams. Woohoo! Okay, well 10.1, but it's all good. Next thing we're going to want to do is break out our little beaker here, and we're going to fill it with 50 milliliters of isopropyl. I already did that already, so that way to speed up this video. And then we're going to take the resin and we're going to place it inside the isopropyl. And now we're going to want to stir it. Now the idea here is to get as much of the resin that's on the bottom stir it up so that the isopropyl can actually dissolve it. Or at least pull out the ink anyway. And now we're going to let it sit. So we're going to let this sit for about 3 hours. And we're going to come back every hour checking on it until it gets to the right consistency. So I wanted to kind of talk about some stuff why we wait. And talk about actually how this process of making Dragon's Blood ink is really done. Now, normally you would take what we just made and you would put it on a heat source and bring it down to about 3/4 or reduce the alcohol down to 3/4 in order to make the ink. However, due to the high flammability and the unstability of isopropyl, it's actually quite dangerous for me just to take it on a stove and heat it up and show you how to do it that way. I mean, the dangers with that is that you end up creating gas pockets that end up igniting and you can end up blowing up your house. It's always great. Or worse, we overheat it and we actually make it catch on fire, which is even better, you know. Yeah. So no, we're not going to do that process. Instead, by letting it sit for 3 hours, what we're doing is we're allowing the air to dissipate isopropyl. Isopropyl actually disintegrates or dissolves or evaporates. Evaporate is the word. There we go. You know, it actually evaporates in the air very quickly. And due to the high concentration and the fact I'm using a small beaker, it's probably going to take about 2 to 3 hours before we can bring it down to 3/4 of what it is when we first started. You know, so while we wait for this to brew and do its thing and, you know, wait lovely 3 hours, I figured I'd tell you guys some of the magical properties to use Dragon's Blood ink. Or at least some magical workings you can do with it. One of the perfect ways to use Dragon's Blood ink is for protection spells. It's really, really good at bringing out, like if you're going to write your own spells, Dragon's Blood ink is perfect for that because it really makes your spells stronger. It also brings out your demands, like whatever it is you're demanding. Use the Dragon's Blood ink to write it down in words because it's going to be fantastic, I'll tell you. But it's also great for getting rid of certain people in your life that may not be so healthy for you or may not want the best intentions for you, okay? Listen, to each his own on how you do your magic, but there are some cases where you just want a person to like, shoo, go away, you know, not really think about them anymore, and for that person not to think of you. So the best idea is to write the person's name down on a piece of parchment paper. Nothing big, just small. And then let the universe know what it is you want to happen and write it in the Dragon's Blood ink. Seal it with a sigil, fold it up 3 times, burn the parchment paper, and then release the ashes in the air to send out your intentions and your demands to the universe. There's so many different ways you could do this, both positive and negative. You know, like I said, to each his own on how you do your spells. It's just one of the few of the many things that you can do, okay? So I'm getting very impatient, and I'm actually feeling that the resin is really dissolving. It's actually practically gone. I don't think I'm going to have to filter this out, which I was going to probably do anyway, but I think leaving the resin in the ink might not be such a bad idea. So this is ink. Very beautiful, isn't it? Very nice. And just to give you an idea of what it's looking like right now. Okay, this sucker is thick. Do you see this? It's thick. Very, very thick. And there's still some on the bottom. Sorry guys, don't mean to be out of frame here. There's still some on the bottom, but I'm thinking, you know, normally you would filter this out, but to be really honest with you, I think I'm just going to leave it in there because there's really not much left. It's actually, if y'all remember how much we poured in there, there really isn't that much that's left. So let me set you up so that we can see how this is going. Okay, so I know, awkward pose here. But here's our ink, and that is pretty thick, and I think that's the right consistency we're looking for. Let's kind of give you an idea. I don't know if it's gonna show up, but that's pretty red. So I'm gonna grab some parchment paper and see how it comes out when we write with it. I'm not going to use a feather pen or a quill or anything like that. I'm going to use my makeshift paintbrush with, it's, trying to see if I can get you to focus here. Focus. It is a dip pen. Well, my phone's not going to focus, but it's a dip pen tip. It's a, what is it called? Like a speedball pen. Dipping pen, and it's a B5 that we're going to use. And on the other end, I have a really, really bad shaped paintbrush. What are you going to do? Now, with these particular tips or nibs or whatever you want to call them, they tend to be a little bit of a pain in the butt. So let's see if we can get it to do what we need it to do so you can see what's going on. It's the, like I said, they're a little bit annoying. I don't want too much ink now. There we go, there we go. You're getting there, you're getting there. Whoop, too much. There we go. It finally got what it needed. Sorry guys, I had to change the positioning of the camera here because I'm using my phone and I wanted you guys to be able to see, so I had to kind of rig things. But we're going to do this again. I'm going to draw. So I'm going to dip a little bit here. Sorry, this is not too much of frame. Like I said, I'm using my phone. And let's see how it looks. Again, with these dip pens, they're a little bit, you got to really work with them a bit to make it happen. So let's see. There's this weird hair thing. Ewees! Get off the tip of the head. What the heck is that? Okay, let's try this again. Okay. We're almost there. I can feel the pen trying to get the ink in there. Whoops, too much. Ew. I hate that scraping sound. Ew. Let's do it again. Let's do it again. And let's do my name. Lorna. Cool. It's not bad for making ink, huh? Let's try the paintbrush. Let's try this really bad felt brush end. Dip that in. Let's use this clean side. Hey, there's some life in this brush yet. Ta-da! Now, keep in mind, you can thin this out if you want to. You can keep it like this. I actually prefer it this way as I'm getting ink everywhere. Look at this. Look, I'm just, I don't know if it's a felt tip or whatever. I'm getting ink blotches everywhere. But the point is, I can see this getting all over me. But the point is, you can work with this. Now let's talk about how to store this. I love using these makeup jars. This is a 2-ounce makeup jar. And it's an ember glass jar. You don't want to use plastic for this because the resin will eventually absorb into the plastic. The isopropyl won't actually dissolve anything, but the resin itself will end up going through the jar eventually over time. So I like using ember jars also because anytime you don't really want this stuff or isopropyl to be exposed to any lighting. Also keep in mind when storing this, you don't want it to be near any heat source, okay? So we're going to take off this little protective thing. My little glass jar. Now I like these because of the wide mouth and it's easier to dip your pen. So it's easier to dip right into the jar. Okay, get your mind out of the gutter. And right, just like that. Just put it right there and you dip into it and you can write into it. So I particularly like wide jars. Now, if you don't particularly like them or you don't have a wide mouth jar, you can use a smaller jar with a smaller opening and just pour some out into a small dish or something. And what I love about these little beakers is they have a little funnel tip or pour spout. Pour spout, that's the word I'm looking for. And we're just gonna pour that right in. Da, 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 da. Yeah. Now, do you remember all that resin that we poured in there? There's barely anything left in there. I'm trying to, where's the camera on this thing? Barely anything left in there. And honestly, you really don't need to get rid of this. And I'm just going to actually add this to my jar. And the reason I'm really going to do this is because I'm thinking that maybe as the isopropyl will degrade over time, which means it will evaporate over time, that the resin will keep the color true, and I can always add more isopropyl into the jar later as it evaporates. This really looks gross. This looks like something from a horror movie. Woo! See, that's the color we're looking for when it comes to dragon's blood. It looks exactly like blood. It really does look like something from a horror movie. Like we just did something that we shouldn't be doing. You see, this is how stereotypes start when it comes to the witchy community. Let me stop. And look at that. This is why I tell you to wear gloves. And what's nice about this is that it literally made, this is probably gonna, it's a 2-ounce jar, but it's probably about an ounce worth of liquid. So we're talking about fluid ounces versus, like, you know, ounces in America that we use as weight. If that makes any sense to any of y'all. So I'm going to put my little, actually, hold up. I'm going to wipe this down just because I'm pretty sure I got some on the rim. And then we're going like so. And we put the lid on like so. Ta-da! She's doing the ta-das again. The ta-tadas. Stop with the ta-tadas. And as you can see, the isopropyl evaporates, and what you have left is the residue of the dragon's blood. I wish the lighting was a little better here, but it's just not coming out the way it should. But it's pretty red. It's a pretty nice, and that right there just looks gross. That looks. I hope nobody's squeamish, but it's not real blood, y'all. I'll take these things off. So I hope you guys liked the video. A little bit of a side note, if you're not into alcohol smell, this is going to be a little bit strong. It's not as strong as, say, if you're using drinking alcohol, per se. But it is a pretty strong scent, okay? It is 99.9% alcohol. You can mask the smell slightly, not very much. It's really impossible to get rid of that alcohol smell. But you can bring it down a notch by adding cinnamon essential oils or peppermint essential oils or anything that's particularly that strong. Stay away from the florals. It's not going to work. and maybe citrus, but I promise you it's gonna alter it a bit. I've tried many different variations of making this ink where the alcohol scent is out, but also keep in mind that anything you add to it, like any essential oils, you're adding that magical property to the Dragon's Blood ink. So my personal preference, leave it the way it is with just the 2 ingredients and not anything else to it, because then it's just gonna be what it's meant for. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and I am sending you guys all much love, light, and positive energy. Don't forget to hit the like button. Don't forget to hit the share button to people. Share these videos. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. And also, if you have any comments, questions, or suggestions, please feel free to leave them down below. And as always, I will catch you in the next video. Blessed be.